Hello, Gina. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Diana.
I'm glad to hear it. So, I'm here today with Gina Vild, who is one of our storytellers at the upcoming Third Act Quest Storytellers event in October. Just tell you a little bit about Gina. She's an author, a public speaker, and a consultant on a range of topics from happiness and resilience to grief. She's the co author of a best selling book, The Two Most Important Days: How to Find Your Purpose and Live a Happier, Healthy Life. And she's working on her second book now about resilience. Gina's held a senior leadership positions in healthcare, academia, and government, most recently as Associate Dean and Chief Communications Officer for the Harvard Medical School. So, Gina, I'm very happy that you can take a moment to share a little bit about your path and the defining moments that have led you to not only writing this book about resilience, but living and thinking and being the way you are at this stage in your third act. So, first, could I ask you to share a defining experience or moment in your life or moments in your life that have led you here to how you work and live your life today?
Sure, of course, because I think we can all learn from each other's stories and grow from them. So I had two that were two experiences in my life where everything shape shifted dramatically. The first, I was 28 years old and happy with two adoring parents and a brother. And I was working in a leadership position at a very young age for the governor of Ohio. I was the deputy communications director. And I remember thinking life was so good. And I was on a path where I was able to reach for and touch many of the things I had envisioned and tried to manifest for myself at a very, very young age. The things that were most important to me. And within 72 days, it all fell apart when I lost my two healthy parents, literally within 2 months. My
Mm.
mom to a heart attack, and my father, who was in shock at the loss of my mother, who was young and healthy like him, to a stroke. So, more than a decade later, I would also lose my only sibling to cancer at 48. So, I've had an extraordinary amount of death in my life and understand the magnitude of such significant loss.
Mm.
I rebuilt my life, I forged a new path. And then the second time my life shape shifted, I was happily ensconced in a 28-year marriage, which I thought was a good, if not perfect, marriage. And over the course of 6 weeks in 2015, I initially pulled one thread that rapidly unraveled a stunning number of secrets that led me to understand that nothing was what I had thought over 3 decades.
Oh, man.
So I lost my beautiful, nurturing parents when I was young and just setting out in life. And then when I thought life was all settled, I had to rebuild as a single woman in her late 50s. So the first time, the loss of security and safety was out of my hands. And the second time, I looked at all that was revealed and the I chose to go out in the world and to lose what most people yearn for at that age, which is safety and security.
So, talk to me then. I mean, that's a very remarkable. No wonder you're writing a book about resilience, but that's a very remarkable, um, hard-earned, I guess, skill of yours or attribute. Talk to me about how across your life you've made decisions.
Sure. Well, I think first of all, it's one of the most interesting things I'm writing about is I'm interviewing some wonderful men and women who have experienced far more devastation and in a variety of very serious events, and they have come through it. They've weathered their storms, and I am sharing with others how they did that. And so we each have our own story, right? Everyone has a story, and the story is what our life looks like. But a story is also what is it that you have? What is the story you tell yourself? What is the story you hold in your head always?
Mm,
Because that story makes you who you are. And we build our lives on that story. So we all make decisions about what our life looks like. We all make decisions about how to handle adversity. And many who are watching this may be familiar with Viktor Frankl, who was a psychiatrist in Auschwitz. And he wrote probably the most magnificent book I've read in my life, which is Man's Search for Meaning. And it's about how people found meaning in the most dire of circumstances in a concentration camp. And what he learned and what he shares is this, that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of our human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And we all do this. We all say, I choose to be a victim. I choose to be strong. I choose resilience. And it's not an easy path, but that was my decision, that I wanted to show those who knew me and myself that I could ride through both of these situations and flourish. And I did. And part of how I did that was I've always been very focused on purpose driven work. I mean,
mm,
even from a very young age, when I was in my 20s, I was offered, early 20s, like 20, I was offered a job at IBM, actually, which would have paid for all of my education, and it would have been twice the salary of the job that I had working for the city of Cleveland, initially for Dennis Kucinich, who was a very interesting politician and mayor for the city, but he was very purpose driven. And I chose a course from turning away from that job at IBM and choosing to stay in work that I felt would make people's lives better. And that is a theme that was repeated over and over in my life.
So I think that, yeah, and thinking about your book, the two most important days, purpose and meaning, is at such the core to living a joyful life. And so I read that book, a couple of years ago when I first met you, and I have to say it was very powerful. So thank you for that. So next I have another question. I love the word question because I'm, with the name of my business being Third Act Quest, I believe our lives are all about the questions we ask ourselves and how they can help us understand what we experience, but understand ourselves. So talk to me about some of the questions you've asked yourself and that you still ask yourself when you encounter challenges or opportunities, I guess.
I think there are two of the most important questions we all should ask ourselves, and it will help us navigate. One is, what do I deserve? What do
Mm,
I deserve? Do I deserve to stay in a difficult relationship? How is this serving me? And what do I do with my one precious life, as Mary Oliver
oh man, you and
says?
I met over that quote. I think I'd love.
What do I do with my one? What's the exact quote?
Wild and precious life.
And I think the other thing everyone should ask themselves every day, all the time, even in those darkest moments, which is this, like, what am I grateful for? Because gratitude will take any situation and it won't solve it, but it will shine a flicker of light on it and bring brightness to your
Mm,
situation. And I have an example I use in my book, which is two men had accidents where they both became paraplegic in very similar ways, and they had the same doctor. And the doctor reported that one of them said, I want to die. I can't survive. My life is over. And the other man responded by saying, I almost died. I am alive. And he found gratitude for that. And that's a very extreme situation, but I think no matter what happens, um, you can find something that will make you more buoyant and grateful.
well, going back to your mention of Viktor Frankl, we can easily forget that we are the drivers and we are the deciders, and we get to decide how we experience anything, like the story of those two men. That's a beautiful story. So
There's another, if I can just share one more. There's
please do.
Author I love. She's 94 years old. She also was a Holocaust survivor, and she's often referred to as the female Viktor Frankl. And she was taken to Auschwitz also. And on the day she arrived, her parents were taken away. And Mengele, who was the doctor who performed just the most horrific experiments on children and others, came to her, and he had learned that she was a ballerina or loved ballet. And he said, dance for me. And she's 15, 16 years old. And she had just experienced her parents being taken away. And she danced. And in her head, she held the thought, something her mother had told her, is that no one can take from you what you hold in your head. And that's one way of saying, what is the story you are telling yourself? How do you survive? How do you think of yourself?
Well, so Gina, I'm excited for you to share your personal story in October. And I'm even as excited as you are pulling together and curating, and we'll be sharing the stories of many others in your upcoming book. So thank you for that. And as we close, there's a question I'd like to ask you. If I came to you and said, okay, Gina, I'd love for you to design a bumper sticker that would be on your car, on your window, wherever, that would encapsulate a philosophy you have for life, what would it be?
Oh, I think it would be, Beth Hart has a song called Life is Calling. And it's that life is calling all of us. You know, I've experienced a lot of death in my life. And from that, you see the preciousness of life, and that you only have one life to live. And so what is that life going to look like? What is your story going to be? And I think that is the most important thing.
Well, thank you. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you for doing this.